Welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you here. Now, I've been meaning to make this video for quite some time now. It's a video that covers the Knifonium plugin by Plugin Alliance. Now, it's an absolute beast of a synthesizer when you're looking for that tube-driven, harmonically rich sound. But there's one problem. You really do need to know how to tame it. So today I'll show you 3 essential sound design tips for the plugin that will help you make better patches. Plus, I'll be using some of the presets from our latest preset library called Dark Night that was just released. This will help me demonstrate the techniques, and you can hear how some of the tips translate to real sounds. If you're new here, please subscribe, drop a comment, because that really helps us out a lot. You also get first view on all the new sound design techniques, tips, and future videos. Let's get into it. So my first tip is about gain staging within the plugin. Now, this is an area where a lot of producers get tripped up because there's a lot of different areas where this plugin is introducing different gain stages that emulate the real hardware of driving the tube sections. Now, you've got the oscillator mixer, you've got the feedback area, which you can select oscillators, the filter, or the VCA. You've got the main output, which you can choose the different types of tubes. And then you've got the final stage of output, which you don't drive, but you can back it off. So in this example, what I'll do is I'll bring up a very basic waveform, so a sine wave, which usually just has the fundamental with no harmonics. But this is quite a dirty signal path that introduces harmonics anyway. So what we will do is we'll bring a sine wave in and we'll slowly increase the amount of oscillator 1 that goes to the mixer. Now, what you'll see in the frequency analyzer here is as I go further up the scale, and when I go past like 12 o'clock, it really starts to introduce that tube saturation that the hardware is known for. Let's just give that a quick go now. Now from there, you can drive even further from the output section here, but you'll need to be careful that you don't clip the master. So keep an eye on your master or your channel volume, and then back it down on the final output of the plugin up here. And you have 3 different amp modes, which are different types of tubes that are in the hardware. So let's cycle through a few of those. And another stage is the feedback part of where you can assign it to the VCA, which is the amplifier, the final voltage controlled amplifier, the filter. So if we bring this down, you'll see we could drive the filter even further and introduce even more harmonics. As you can hear, it gets quite nasty and can break up quite a lot. So in a nutshell, experiment with these different amounts that you can drive the oscillator mixer, the feedback section, and the output, but then be also mindful of bringing down the main output so you're not clipping the final stage. So in tip number 2, I'd like to cover how to create more complex timbres with the use of hard sync, frequency modulation, and ring modulation within the plugin. Now, these areas are where you can drastically change the harmonic content inside the plugin, and taking these basic waveforms of sine waves, triangles, squares, and sawtooths into something a lot more complex and more aggressive. I've pulled up this patch called 80 lead phase from our Dark Knight library, and this patch essentially uses the ring mod section here. You can see that oscillator 1 and oscillator 2 are the input and carrier for the ring mod, and we've driven it to about 7, and then as I increase this, you'll hear how harmonically rich this complex oscillator design here has on the sound. Now, to further elaborate on what this sound is capable of, we will alter the tuning of oscillator 1 and oscillator 2, and you'll see how that affects the complexity of the sound. Of course, we can change the waveform from a sawtooth to, let's go, 2 triangle waves. Okay, on to oscillator sync now, also known as hard sync. And what we'll do is we pulled up an init preset, and we will turn on oscillator sync for oscillator 1. And what this is going to do is it's going to track oscillator 2 and reset the phase or reset the start point of oscillator 1. And you're going to get these harder edge sounds. So as I increase and decrease VCO2 octave and the coarse tuning, you're going to hear how it's affecting oscillator 1. And the third one is frequency modulation, which is probably one of the most widely used synthesis techniques for those more complex sounds, which you hear in like the Buchla complex oscillator and many other Eurorack revisions of that oscillator. And basically what it's doing is it's using the one oscillator to adjust the frequency, the pitch of the other oscillator. So in this case, oscillator 2 is going to affect the frequency of oscillator 1. Now to do that, we flick the switch on, and then we can increase the amount of modulation, and then like before, we'll adjust VCO2 coarse tuning and maybe a bit of fine tuning, and you'll hear how that interacts with the oscillator and gives you this more complex timbre. So those are just a few ideas. Experiment with different waveforms, different amounts of frequency modulation, and if you want to go crazy, try all 3 at once. Now the third tip is a bit of a hidden gem that I found within the plugin over the years. Now it's using the wavefolder inside the effects section. If you don't see the effects section, you click this little icon at the top of here and it drops down. Now the wavefolder, I'm not a big fan of some of the effects like the Metal 666 and the chorus and the phaser, they have their place, but also the wavefolder, it's got quite a very narrow range of where you can actually use it. The low pass and the resonance is very nice because that comes after the filter, the initial filter from within the plugin. It's like a guitar pedal on the way out, so you get this extra filter, a bonus filter as it were. But the actual wavefolder itself, you have to be very careful on level, because you start pushing these up, it'll be absolutely smashing your main channel out, and it'll be clipping to pieces. So be careful when you use this. If you're using headphones, be very careful, because it is wild. But I'm only going to show you this. There's this one setting I've found where if you dial this mode up to the first slot, which is like 99-1, you can get this really nice, noisy, like grainy texture. Now I'll bring one of the presets that we created up, and you'll hear the difference now. Let me bring this matching MIDI in, preset 82. Okay, let's give this a play without the wavefolder in, which is here on that mode of 99-1. We could play with this folds, but let's just play it before and after. Okay, with the wavefolder. It's like it's breaking up. You get this grungy, dirty sort of texture, which I think is phenomenal. Now let's play with the wavefolder slightly now and see what else we can get out of it. It's really nice, but be very careful with this mode button. If you go past 99-1 and you go up here and you start pressing the keys, be sure to take your headphones off, put a limiter on your master, because it will absolutely destroy everything in its path. So thank you so much for staying right to the end of the video. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found some new little techniques or sound design tricks that you can use in your own productions. If you're looking for ready-to-use sounds, please check out our new preset library called Dark Knight. It's on our website now. I'll drop a link in the description below. And yeah, drop a comment and let me know which tip you found useful or what you'd like us to cover in a future episode. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon.